retired robber of 8 years. I have been involved in house burglaries and car theft. I stopped not because they caught me and put me in jail. That hasn't happened yet. But because of one specific burglary. I had to investigate the family and their possessions before I could rob their house. It's best not to have them in the house when you rob it. The research could take a long time. It could be just a few days though as well. I once had my eye on a huge house, a 2-story with a pool and a barbecue. The family was getting ready to go on vacation. It was just a man and a woman, no kids. They left on Wednesday and I kept looking around the house. I never go on the first night or the second, because there was a better chance they'd be home right away. On the third evening I was ready to go in. I jumped the fence, the pool without a problem. I was in front of their back door, which, luckily for me, was unlocked. I would have unlocked it myself, but I was lucky enough to save a lot of time. I was trying to leave things as I found them, so they wouldn't notice anything was missing. I found rings, earrings, and expensive watches. Searched the entire first floor and the entire second. It was about time to leave, but I noticed one of the walls had a very thin slit in a large painting. Under it was a hole for a lock, but the handle was missing. I took out my tools and opened it. There was a stairway to a basement. The basement was very dark and smelled terrible. I pulled out a flashlight and shined it. In front of me I saw 2 huge tables. One had various knives on it, and the other one was covered in dried blood. I was terrified. I looked around some more and saw a huge freezer. I was curious what smelled so bad, so I opened it. There was a dead woman inside. I wanted to vomit from what I saw. I got my stuff and walked out of the basement. I had to report what was going on there. I called the police, telling them that I had seen them bringing a dead body and that there was a horrible smell coming from the house. The police broke the house down and found traces of at least 3 victims. The man and woman were selling their bodies. They were arrested before they even got to their home and never realized I had robbed them. I stopped doing that after what happened. A tip on how to know your house is being watched by a burglar. If your neighbor's house gets robbed, it means yours could be next. I learned it the hard way. When I was 17, my neighbor's house was robbed. It happened quite a bit in our town at the time, but my family didn't worry because we were all thinking about what the odds would be that they robbed the very next house. A month after the neighbor's incident, my mother and father had to go on a business trip for a few days. They left me alone because I was old enough to manage without them. They had given me enough money so I wouldn't starve. I had plans about what I was going to do while I was alone. I was planning to play games, call friends over to watch movies, or have some kind of party. The first night I played games, ate junk food, stayed up late and stuff like that. The second day went the same way. On the third day I had planned to watch a movie with friends in the evening. It was already dark. I arranged the living room, prepared food and drinks and started waiting for them. They texted me that they were gonna be late because they were gonna buy some more food. An hour passed, but there was no sign of them. As I was looking at my phone, I heard a knock on the door and went to answer it. I couldn't wait to start watching movies. I got to the door and out of habit, I looked through the peephole. But it wasn't my friends. Some strangers were trying to open the door, but it was locked. I looked again and saw them pulling out some sort of device that they placed on the lock. I went up to the second floor in the quietest way possible and hid under my bed. I heard the front door open. They were already inside. I couldn't call the police because I had left my phone in the living room. I didn't know how long it had been since they came in, but it felt like forever. I heard them coming up the stairs. My room was the first one down the hall and I expected the worst to happen at any moment. They opened my door. There were only 2 of them. They searched my closet and cupboard for things and it was their turn to look under the bed. My heart was going to skip a beat. I felt someone grab my leg and pulled me out from under the bed. I screamed. One guy grabbed me and pinned my mouth shut, and the other pointed a gun at my head. My life flashed before my eyes. An hour ago, I didn't think I would be in this situation. I felt like I was already seeing the light, but actually I was really seeing it. It was a blinking blue light. When I came to realize, I saw out of the window that there were patrol cars outside my house. The men released me and fled. I heard the shouts of policemen. 2 uniformed men entered the room and escorted me to the streets. There I saw my friends. It turned out that they had seen the masked man breaking down the door and called the police. After what happened, I thanked them every day for saving my life. I was 15 when something happened to me that I will remember all of my life. I live in a big 1-story house with many rooms and a big yard. My dad has put lights and cameras everywhere. He thinks a lot about my safety and that of my mother and little sister, so he has guns in the house, but he hides them from us. I was on the second shift and I was coming home quite late, and it was winter. It was getting dark about 5 p.m. My school wasn't that far from home, so I walked. It was a normal day, full of tension and worry about our upcoming test. The whole time on the way home, I was thinking about how I was going to fail. As I was walking, I noticed a familiar figure sitting on one of the benches. It was the teacher I was going to take the test with. I had questions and went to ask him, but when I said sir, I was confronted by a person who looked like my teacher but wasn't him. His face was dirty. There were scars all over. The smell of carrion hit me. He looked at me and I apologized to him. Told him that I thought it was someone else and went on my way. After a few meters, I noticed that the stranger had got up and was walking towards me. I didn't dare stop and ask him what he wanted. I could feel the distance shortening between us and I hurried, but he quickened his pace. I started to run towards home. I walked in and locked the door. My mother was standing in front of me. She asked me what was going on and I explained things to her. We called the police and I gave them a description of the man. I thought I was safe now, but I wasn't. It was time for bed and I went to my room, but I couldn't fall asleep. I watched the tree outside through the glass door. I wondered what that man would have done to me if I hadn't gotten out. Then, I saw that one of the lights in front of the house was on. The lamp was to the left of my room. I thought it was some animal, but I saw it. The same man from today, standing at my window with a knife in his hand. I froze. I didn't know if it was real or a nightmare. He swung the knife and broke the window. I screamed with all of my might. He walked into the room and stood in front of my bed. I stood up and was trying to get out the paper spray I kept in my bag. The hallway light came on and my dad stormed the room with a gun in his hand. He pointed the gun at the man and yelled at him to get away, or he'd stain the wall with him. After that, the man ran. The next day, the police told us that he had been arrested. I don't want to imagine what would have happened to me if it wasn't for my dad.
If you have experienced similar paranormal activities, share them to our email or the comments below. If you found this video interesting, please like it and share it.